It's done. Viktor Gyökeres is going to Arsenal. My dream striker's target, my dream striker signing is going to Arsenal. Well, Osimhen would have been lovely, but his wages were ridiculous. I was hoping with Ruben Amorim we were going to be able to pull Gyökeres. But I've known for the last month that Gyökeres is 100% going to Arsenal. Since it came out that he told Man United he prefers Arsenal, I've known it was going to Arsenal. I had this hope that Arsenal would go for Sesko and then Gyökeres could come begging back to Man United. And I was still hoping that maybe Berta was using this recent Gyökeres news where it looked like Gyökeres to Arsenal was developing as maybe a tactic to get Sesko price lowered. And I was thinking maybe something could happen for Sesko, but I kind of known that for the last week, I've pretty much known that Gyökeres is going to Arsenal. We now know he's 100% going to Arsenal, pending like medical and stuff. But I was sort of just hoping this would collapse or they would go for Sesko. It was all a game to get the Sesko price down. So while I'm not surprised Gyökeres is going to Arsenal, and I can't blame him for choosing Arsenal over United because he's 27, he's in the prime of his career, he wants to play Champions League football. He doesn't want to wait for 3 years for Manchester United to sort themselves out, and who knows if we'll even sort ourselves out in 2-3 years. He wants to go to Arsenal, and it sucks. It sucks because not only at Arsenal, who are one of the teams I dislike the most in the world, getting a really good player, but he also was linked to Manchester United. He was also wanted by Manchester United. He was also wanted by Ruben Amorim. And he said no to us and he's gone to Arsenal. So it's the rejection. It's the fact that we had his former manager and still couldn't get him. And he's gone to Arsenal. Not for me, man. So if you're wondering why I'm saying he's gone to Arsenal, this and that, this is what's been said. And look, I'm just going to give you context. I'm on holiday. I'm in a hotel room. The only area in the room that gets somewhat decent Wi-Fi is the bathroom, which is annoying because I feel like the audio is going to come out a bit echoey. So I apologise, but it was blurry picture or slightly echoey audio, and I feel like, that's the better choice filming in the bathroom. But obviously, David Ornstein said 2 hours ago that Arsenal, in the process of completing a move for Gyökeres after taking the final steps in negotiating with Sporting Lisbon, Arsenal made formal advances on deal terms over the weekend in a bid to secure the 27-year-old. But he's also just said now that Sporting Lisbon confirmed agreement in principle for Viktor Gyökeres switch to Arsenal. The deal was worth €63.5 million plus 10 million in add-ons. The 27-year-old striker's representative waives fee to help facilitate move. So Sporting have budged, they've lowered the fee, but that's 55 million base fee. 55 million base fee. Alanga was 55 million, Gittins was 55 million, Madueke was 52 million. Base fee of 55 million plus about £8 million in add-ons. You're looking at about £63-64 million deal for a striker that scored basically 100 goals in the last 2 seasons for a striker in his prime. When Chelsea are putting Nicholas Jackson on the market and wanting £60 million, when Liverpool are looking for £50-60 million for Darwin Núñez, to get Viktor Gyökeres for that kind of money is very good business. And I can see exactly why Arsenal have gone for Gyökeres over Sesko when you look at that. But it sucks. Now, I'm going to talk about Gyökeres and why I think it's a good signing for Arsenal. I do think Arteta is going to need to adapt the way he plays to get the best out of Viktor Gyökeres and make it work. It needs to be a bit more transitional. And I think bringing Eze in would complement that well. And I will do a video on how Eze and Gyökeres works really well together and what Arteta could do if you sign Eze. So yeah. But before I get into that, and before I get into why I think Gyökeres will be a great signing for Arsenal, my thoughts on it, it's the dream signing. My dream window, I said this May 23rd, was Joan Garcia, who's gone to Barcelona, Aït-Nouri, that's gone to Man City, Baleba, we're not going to get him, he's too expensive, Mbeumo and Cunha, which we got, and I didn't think we were going to get Mbeumo at that time, and Gyökeres. That was my dream summer. And we're getting the dream front too, fingers crossed we're getting Mbeumo, Man United, please. But Gyökeres was the guy to complete it. Osimhen was, I actually prefer him a bit to Gyökeres, but we were never going to get Osimhen. And then I always felt that Arsenal were going to get Gyökeres, but I always had this hope we were going to get Sesko and we could get Gyökeres. That was my dream summer. And the thing is, Aït-Nouri, we weren't linked to him. Garcia, we weren't reliably linked to him. Baleba, no one's going for him. So yes, missing out on Aït-Nouri and Garcia was like, cool, but we were never in for him. We were in for Gyökeres and he chose Arsenal. We had his former manager and he chose Arsenal. And I can't blame him for choosing Arsenal. I knew he was going to choose Arsenal. I've said on Alice Talks Football, my Man United channel, we want Gyökeres, so do Arsenal. Realistically, I know we have Amorim, but I think he'll pick Arsenal over us. And I was correct. He wanted Champions League football. He was always going to go to Arsenal. He always wanted Arsenal. And that's a massive green flag for Arsenal, by the way. Massive, massive green flag for Arsenal because he turned down a lot of clubs for Arsenal. He turned down Saudi money for Arsenal. I even read somewhere that he'd be willing to use some of his own money to help with the move. I don't know if that was true, but he really wanted Arsenal. And look, this is a very good signing for Arsenal. You had Sesko, you had Gyokeres. Sesko long term, probably the better signing. Sesko long term, probably the better fit. Sesko long term fits Arteta's system better. But Arsenal keep coming second. You want to come first next year. Do you want long-term players or do you want ready to make an impact, killer finisher now? You want ready to make an impact, killer finisher now. He has 97 goals across the last 2 seasons, so basically 100. He's got 125 goals and assists in the last 102 games. I meant to say got more goals and assists, got more goal contributions than appearances, but it says scored more goals than appearances. He's got just less goals than he has appearances in the last 2 seasons, but he's got more goal contributions than appearances in the last 2 seasons. But he was fantastic. We talk about Gonzalo Ramos and Darwin Núñez maybe not living up to the hype, but they never got the numbers of Viktor Gyökeres. And also, they never had any experience of playing in England as well. Gyökeres has experience at Coventry. Look, Gyökeres scores a lot of goals, and most of his goals were penalties and scored against the lower teams in the Portuguese league. And he got a lot of space, and Sporting were more transitional than Arsenal. There's reasons for concern around Gyökeres for Arsenal, don't get me wrong. But if you look at Gyökeres at Coventry, English league, coming up against low box, Championship different to the Premier League. But Gyökeres' biggest green flags for Arsenal should come from his time at Coventry. The goals he got, how he did in less space, how he did in more physical conditions. Gyökeres' physical ability, his ability to finish chances, which is something Arsenal lacked last season, his ability to create something out of nothing, which is something Arsenal lacked last season, should be the biggest green flag for Arsenal when looking at that deal. Another big green flag for Arsenal should be that your biggest problem was scoring goals, your biggest problem was finishing chances, your biggest problem was coming up with something out of nothing to win a game or finishing a game off. And that's something Gyökeres can do. Slides just crashed. Let me get that back up. As I've said on Arsenal many times, Arsenal have the best defensive record in the league the last 2 seasons. Arsenal, for me, are the best team in the world off the ball. They are the best team in the world off the ball for me, Arsenal. Fantastic off the ball. They are elite off the ball, but also on the ball. In the first and second phase, in build-up, Arsenal are also incredible on the ball in the first and second phase in build-up. But what Arsenal lack is killer instinct in the final third. There's a lot of times that Arsenal drew games last season. How many draws did Arsenal get last season? It must have been double figures. And in a lot of those draws, you had a lot of the ball, you had the bigger chances, you did enough to win, and had you had Salah and Gakpo in your front line, you would have won the game. Liverpool had a few games which they could have drawn, but Salah provided something and they won. Because Liverpool had players that could win a game dirty or win a game out of something or find a solution. Arsenal lacked that. Arsenal seriously lacked killer instinct in the final third, players that would take risks, get shots off. That's what you lacked. Yeah? You look at PSG, Arteta did come out and say apparently the PSG bench said he was the better team and this and that, and you had a higher XG versus PSG, and you created more chances than PSG. But look at your front three, look at PSG's front three, look at it, look at the difference. No wonder PSG won, because they had that quality in the final third that you lacked. Odegaard was too safe last season. You were too predictable at times last season. Saka's the only player for me at Arsenal that takes risks and can make something happen out of nothing. Madueke takes risks. I get why Arsenal have gone for him. Definitely not a £50 million player. I think you massively overspent. But Madueke will take risks. Good Saka backup if he gets injured, can take the pressure off Saka. Madueke can offer something. But with Eze potentially coming in, what does Eze do? Takes risks, scores screamers, gets lots of shots off. Madueke, Eze, Gyökeres are players that like to take risks and with high shot volume. So the 3 of them make sense in that aspect, But particularly Gyökeres, he can create something out of nothing. He can finish chances. He is someone that can win a game. And Arsenal couldn't win a lot of games. They couldn't win dirty last season. That was a big problem for you. Liverpool and City have played bad and won games in the past. Arsenal very rarely play bad and cheat a win. And if you look at, Gyökeres and you look at concerns, you've also got to look at the fact that Havertz is not a natural 9, but in 2024, I'm pretty sure he got 20 goals in 2024 playing as a 9 for Arsenal. 9 is his best position for Arsenal, but he's never been a natural 9. Mourinho is a centre mid. He plays as a 9 for Arsenal. We got 6 or 7 goals in the league. So if Mourinho is putting up numbers for Arsenal in the 9, if Havertz, that wasn't doing great at Chelsea, is putting up numbers for Arsenal in the 9, even if Gyökeres isn't amazing, he's still going to put up numbers. He's still going to put up numbers. There's concerns around Gyökeres. There's concerns, there's red flags. Of course, it's different to Portugal. But he's a good player. He's deadly with both feet. He's a direct runner. Arsenal need to be more direct. Arsenal didn't score many goals from transitions. In fact, Arsenal, one of the worst teams in the Premier League at transitioning. And I think Arteta needs to be more adaptable. I know Arteta likes to keep the ball, but I think Arsenal needs to get better at transitioning, and they need a bit more pace. Gyökeres brings that. He likes to run the channels. Gyökeres' movement is incredibly good, and he can pin defenders, and he's physical. Yes, Gyökeres isn't the best in small spaces. Yes, Gyökeres is going to struggle at times maybe against the low block compared to in Portugal, and it's going to be harder. He's not going to get the numbers he got in Portugal. But Gyökeres is probably, out of the number 9s in football, got one of the best movement I've seen. His movement, his presence is going to free space for Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Madueke, Eze potentially. His movement's going to open up space. He likes to drift ride, run the channels. That can draw a defender out, maybe open up space centrally. And also, we talk about Arsenal having a lot of the ball, and then they're just not putting that killer pass in. Gyökeres can make that run where Saka and Odegaard could find that killer pass. Gyökeres is very good at making runs to open up defences, which is something Arsenal massively struggle with. And as I said, if Havertz and Mourinho are doing well as a striker, Gyökeres, I think, will do well. He brings instincts, physicality, timing. You're putting him into attack, and he's going to produce to elevate that. Sesko is you've got to give him time, you've got to be patient. Gyökeres is a win now, I'm ready now. And also, he was way more hungry for Arsenal. You get that with Gyökeres. He's physical, he's had time in England. He's ready now, he's ready to make an impact. Look, there's areas for concern. He thrives in transition, he thrives at running the channels. Arsenal don't play that way. Arteta has to adapt. To get the best out of Gyökeres, Arteta has to adapt. And I think having someone like Eze coming in who could go on the left and drift in centrally behind Gyökeres as support would work really well. Arteta has to adapt. There's questions over him in tight spaces. There's a question of a link-up play. But if Arteta changes his system and operates to get the best out of Gyökeres, which is what you should do, then it's a good signing. And I'm going to say this now. When was the last time Arsenal had a proper 9? Aubameyang. Arteta has never had a proper 9 at Arsenal. And I think, at the end of the day, proper 9s win you games. What trophies has Arteta won since the FA Cup? None. This is Arteta's proper 9. Jesus isn't an out-and-out 9. Havertz can play 10, can play 9, has been quite good at 9, but he isn't an out-and-out 9. Arteta has finally signed a proper goal-scorer finisher 9. The first time there's been a 9 at Arsenal since Aubameyang. A proper 9. He's got his number 9, and that's the difference. It's a win-now player that's entering his peak, that's barely missed any games in the last 3 seasons, good injury record, but it's a win-now ready-made 9. He's hungry to prove himself in the Premier League. He pushed hard for the move. That's what you've got in Viktor Gyökeres. I'm jealous. I think he's better than Sesko. I think he will make more impact now than Sesko. I think if you watch Gyökeres play and you see his ability to create something out of nothing, you'll be excited. It will be harder in England, but he's going into a big team. He's going into a good team that will create. He's physically good. He can finish off chances, and that's something Arsenal have lacked. He's good. And you know what this means for Arsenal? They have their striker. This will help solve their final third problem if they can get Eze in. And if you get Eze in, he can be competition to Odegaard and play left wing, and you also get an elite level left winger in. If you get Eze and an elite level left winger in after Gyökeres, that's trouble. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.